Let me ask you something personal. Think about the last time someone really looked at you. Not a glance, not a quick acknowledgement across a room. I mean the last time someone held your gaze for just a moment longer than expected, and something shifted. Something moved inside your chest that you could not quite name. Your heart might have picked up its pace. Your thoughts might have gone quiet. And for a second, just a second, it felt like that person could see straight through everything you used to protect yourself, through the jokes, through the carefully practiced confidence, through the armor, and they were looking at something real. Now here is the unsettling part. They might not have said a single word. There was no touch, no whispered secret, no declaration, just two sets of eyes meeting in open air. And yet something happened between you and that person that thousands of words might struggle to replicate. How is that possible? How can two human beings, who are made of flesh and bone and neurons firing in predictable biological patterns, transmit something as complicated as attraction, as deep as recognition, as fragile as trust, through nothing more than the direction of their gaze? That is what we are exploring today. This is not just a conversation about eye contact as a social skill, though we will absolutely get into the psychology of how it works in attraction and relationships. This is something bigger. This is about what happens in your brain, in your body, and in the invisible space between two people when their eyes connect. This is about why eye contact can feel like the most intimate thing that happens between two people who have never even touched. This is about why it can make a stranger feel familiar, why it can make a conversation feel like a confession, and why, in certain rare and electric moments, it can feel like the closest thing to telepathy that human beings are capable of. So if you have ever locked eyes with someone and felt something you could not explain, if you have ever wondered why a gaze held you in place when nothing else could, you are in exactly the right place. Let us go deep on this. The moment before language. When eyes spoke before words existed. To understand why eye contact feels like such a profound connection, we have to go back. Not just back to your childhood or your first relationship or the first time someone looked at you like you mattered. We have to go back much further than that. We have to go back to a time before language existed, before human beings had the ability to say, "I see you," or "I trust you," or "I want you," and understand how our ancestors communicated all of those things without a single word. For millions of years, before the machinery of language developed in the human brain, our primate ancestors lived in complex social groups. And in those groups, survival depended on reading other beings with extraordinary accuracy. You needed to know, instantly and without being told, whether the creature in front of you was a threat or an ally. You needed to know whether the dominant member of the group was in a dangerous mood. You needed to assess trust, assess intention, assess emotional state. And you needed to do it fast, because in environments full of predators and competition, hesitation was dangerous. So the face became a billboard, and the eyes became the headline. Out of all the features of the human face, the eyes are uniquely expressive in the animal kingdom. Human beings are the only primates who have white sclera, the white part of the eye that surrounds the colored iris. Every other primate has darker sclera that makes it much harder to detect where they are looking. Think about that for a moment. Every other primate essentially evolved to hide the direction of their gaze, but humans evolved to make it visible. Why would we evolve to reveal where we are looking? Wouldn't that make us more vulnerable? Wouldn't that give away our intentions? The answer is yes, and that is exactly the point. Human beings evolved to make their gaze readable because cooperation became our greatest survival advantage. We are not the fastest animal. We are not the strongest. We do not have the sharpest teeth or the toughest skin. What we have is the ability to work together with extraordinary precision, to coordinate, to share intentions, to communicate complex plans. And shared gaze became one of the foundational tools for that cooperation. When you can see where someone is looking, you can follow their attention. You can understand what they are thinking about. You can coordinate without speaking. The visible white of the human eye is not a design flaw. It is a communication system that predates language by millions of years. It is a biological billboard that says, "Here is where my mind is. Here is what matters to me right now. Here is whether I am friend or threat." And at the center of all of that, the most powerful signal of all, is direct gaze. When someone looks directly into your eyes, they are not just communicating the direction of their attention. They are doing something far more significant. They are choosing to make themselves legible to you. They are, in the most ancient and biological sense, saying, "I am not hiding from you. I am allowing you to see me, and I am looking for you in return." That is why eye contact feels like a bond, because at the deepest evolutionary level, it is one. The neuroscience of locking eyes. What your brain does the moment someone meets your gaze. Now let us bring this out of history and into the immediate present. Let us talk about what is actually happening inside you, right now, in biological terms, when someone makes eye contact with you. The moment another person's gaze meets yours, your brain launches into a sequence of activity that is both ancient and extraordinarily complex. And the first responder in this sequence is not the reasoning part of your brain. It is not the part that thinks logically and analyzes situations. The first responder is the amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure buried deep in the brain that processes emotional significance and danger. The amygdala receives information about eye contact almost before the rest of your brain even registers that it happened. Studies in neuroscience have consistently shown that the amygdala responds to direct gaze with immediate heightened activity. When someone looks at you, your amygdala fires up and essentially asks one urgent question: is this safe? Is this a threat or a connection? This is important to understand because it explains something that many people experience but rarely articulate. Eye contact always carries a charge. It never feels completely neutral. Even in ordinary social situations, being looked at directly activates something in you. It demands a response. It requires you to pay attention. And depending on the context and the person, that charge can tip in one of two directions: threat or intimacy. But here is where it gets really interesting when we are talking about attraction specifically. When eye contact is perceived as safe, when the brain processes the direct gaze as coming from someone who is not a threat but a potential connection, something remarkable happens. The body begins to release a cascade of neurochemicals, and chief among them is oxytocin. Oxytocin is sometimes called the bonding hormone or the love hormone, though those labels are slightly oversimplified. What oxytocin actually does is facilitate social bonding by increasing trust, reducing anxiety, and creating a sense of warmth and connection toward whoever is present when the chemical is released. It is the chemical that floods a mother's brain when she looks at her newborn child. It is the chemical that warms you when you hug someone you love. And research has shown that it can be triggered in measurable doses simply by sustained eye contact with another person. Think about that. Two people looking at each other can chemically bond themselves together, not metaphorically, literally. The act of sustained mutual gaze actually initiates a bonding process at the neurochemical level. In addition to oxytocin, eye contact also activates the brain's dopamine pathways, the same reward circuits that are engaged by things we find pleasurable and want more of. This means that when you make eye contact with someone you are attracted to, your brain is not just registering the connection, it is rewarding you for it. It is releasing a small hit of dopamine that makes the experience feel good, that makes you want to keep looking, that associates the face in front of you with pleasure and reward. And then there is the mirror neuron system. Mirror neurons are a class of brain cells that fire both when you perform an action and when you observe someone else performing the same action. They are the biological foundation of empathy. They are how you feel a flicker of what other people feel when you watch them. And when you are in direct eye contact with someone, the mirror neuron system goes into heightened activity. You begin to literally resonate with the other person's emotional state. Their excitement becomes your excitement. Their calm becomes your calm. Their openness, if you are watching carefully enough, becomes something you can feel in your own chest. This is why eye contact with someone who is attracted to you can feel so overwhelming. It is not just that you can see their feelings. It is that your nervous system begins to echo them. You are not just observers of each other. You are participants in each other's emotional reality. And all of this begins the moment your eyes meet. The psychology of attraction and gaze. What your eyes are really saying when you look at someone you want. Now let us get specifically into attraction, because this is where the science becomes particularly fascinating and, honestly, a little bit wild. Eye contact and attraction are not just correlated. They are deeply, causally linked in ways that most people have never been told about. And the relationship runs in both directions. Eye contact signals attraction, but eye contact can also create attraction where it did not previously exist. Let us start with what eye contact communicates about desire. When you are attracted to someone, your autonomic nervous system, the part that operates largely outside your conscious control, starts making changes. Your pupils dilate. This is one of the most well-documented and least controllable responses in human physiology. Pupil dilation happens when you encounter something you want, something visually interesting, something pleasurable, something that captures your desire. And crucially, you cannot fake it and you cannot suppress it. Dilated pupils in the context of interaction are a nearly involuntary advertisement of attraction. And what is even more extraordinary, people can detect this, not consciously in most cases. Most people cannot tell you that person's pupils are dilated and therefore they find me attractive. But the brain picks up the signal anyway. Research has shown that people consistently rate faces with dilated pupils as more attractive, warmer, and more appealing than identical faces with constricted pupils, even when the observers cannot articulate what the difference is. The attraction is felt before it is understood. So when you look into someone's eyes, you are exchanging information that neither of you is consciously processing. You are broadcasting desire through the black of your pupils, and they are receiving it through a perceptual system older than conscious thought. But the communication through eyes does not stop at pupil dilation. The direction and duration of gaze carry their own elaborate messages. Research on gaze behavior in attraction has identified what psychologists sometimes call the triangular gaze pattern, a pattern of looking that people unconsciously adopt when they are attracted to someone. In this pattern, the eyes move from one eye to the other, then drop briefly to the mouth, then return to the eyes. This triangular movement, subtle and usually below conscious awareness, communicates, "I am interested in what you say, I am thinking about your mouth, and I want to be closer to you." When people are not attracted to someone, this pattern does not typically appear. The gaze remains at the level of the eyes or drifts away. The duration of eye contact is equally significant. Studies suggest that the average comfortable gaze duration between strangers is somewhere between 3 and 5 seconds. Hold it longer than that, and you have crossed into territory that demands a response, that requires the other person to either reciprocate the intensity or look away and break the tension. And this moment, this choice between reciprocation and retreat, is one of the most psychologically loaded moments in human interaction. Because when someone holds your gaze past the point of comfort and you hold it back, When neither person looks away, something shifts. The air changes, and both people know, without anyone saying anything, that the interaction has become something else. This is what people mean when they talk about the look, the gaze that communicates more than words. It is not mystical. It is a precise social signal deeply rooted in human psychology that says, "I am willing to be seen by you, and I want to see you in return." The famous 36 questions experiment. How science proved that eye contact can create love. In 1997, psychologist Arthur Aaron conducted one of the most remarkable and widely discussed experiments in the history of relationship psychology. His research produced what became known as the Fast Friends procedure, a study in which pairs of strangers were asked to answer a series of increasingly personal questions to each other, culminating in 4 minutes of silent, mutual eye contact. The questions themselves were designed to gradually escalate intimacy, starting with light topics and moving toward deeper personal disclosures. By the time participants reached the final exercise, 4 unbroken minutes of silent eye contact, they had already been made emotionally vulnerable with each other, and then they simply looked. The results were striking. Many participants reported feeling genuine closeness, warmth, and connection to their partner after the exercise. Some reported feeling as though they had known the person far longer than the hour they had spent together. The experience was described as profound, moving, disorienting, as if the sustained eye contact had collapsed time and social barriers simultaneously. One pair of participants from this experiment later married. Now, the researchers were careful not to overclaim. The intimacy produced by the experiment was real, but also somewhat artificial, a product of the specific conditions of disclosure and sustained attention. Not everyone falls in love after 4 minutes of eye contact. The context matters enormously, but the study pointed to something real and scientifically replicable. Sustained, mutual, intentional eye contact, when both people consent to it and both hold the gaze, has measurable effects on feelings of connection, trust, and attraction. And this finding has been replicated and extended in subsequent research. Studies have shown that people who maintain more eye contact during conversations are rated as more likable, more trustworthy, more confident, and more attractive. People remember conversations better when they included more eye contact. Mutual eye contact increases the likelihood that both people will report feeling genuine connection. Why? Because eye contact, in the psychological literature, is one of the clearest behavioral signals of attention, and attention is, at its root, what we are all hungry for. To be looked at, really looked at, without someone's gaze sliding away to their phone, or to the room, or to anywhere else, is to be told, "You matter enough for my full presence. Right now, in this moment, you are what I choose to pay attention to." And that feeling, the feeling of being chosen, even in the small way of a sustained gaze, is deeply, powerfully attractive. The vulnerability engine. Why being seen feels both terrifying and wonderful. Let us talk about something that does not often come up in discussions of eye contact and attraction, but that sits at the very heart of why sustained gaze feels so significant. Eye contact requires vulnerability. This is not a small thing. We live in a world where vulnerability is routinely discouraged. We are taught, in 1,000 subtle and not so subtle ways, to manage the impression we make on others, to present the best version, to protect the real version, to keep certain things inside. And the face, particularly the eyes, is notoriously difficult to manage. The face leaks emotion. The eyes leak longing, sadness, desire, fear. They are the hardest part of ourselves to control, and they are the part that other people look at first. This is why many people find sustained eye contact uncomfortable, even with people they like and trust. Because to hold someone's gaze is to allow them a window into parts of yourself that you normally keep shuttered. It is to let them see whether you are nervous, whether you care too much, whether you are holding something back. Psychologists have identified something called the eye contact vulnerability loop. When you make sustained eye contact with someone, you become intensely aware of the fact that they are looking at you as closely as you are looking at them. This mutual awareness, this sense of being simultaneously seen and seeing, creates a feedback loop of emotional exposure. And most people, somewhere in that loop, hit a wall of discomfort and look away. The look away is, psychologically speaking, a form of self-protection. It is the autonomic move back towards safety, the gesture that says, okay, that was too much. I need to regulate, and there is nothing wrong with this. It is completely human. But here is the thing about attraction and vulnerability. They are not separate. They are the same road. The people who tend to be experienced as most magnetic, most compelling, most deeply attractive are often the people who can hold a gaze without flinching. Not because they are fearless, but because they have made a choice to stay present with the discomfort of being seen. They understand, perhaps without consciously articulating it, that the discomfort is the point, that the vulnerability is the doorway. When someone looks at you and does not look away, when they hold your gaze with calm, genuine attention, what you feel is not just attraction. You feel something rarer and more valuable. You feel safe to be yourself. Because someone who can bear to truly see you, without flinching or retreating, is giving you implicit permission to be real. And real is what we are all, underneath everything, desperate to be with another person. This is the alchemy of sustained eye contact in attraction. It does not just say, I want you. It says something far more potent. I can handle seeing you, and I am not going anywhere. Different kinds of eye contact and what they mean. Reading the language your eyes are speaking. Not all eye contact is the same, and part of becoming more fluent in the psychology of attraction is learning to read the specific vocabulary of gaze, to understand what different kinds of eye contact are actually communicating. The lingering glance. This is the eye contact that is just a beat too long, a look that extends past the ordinary social window and then breaks, usually with the person looking away and potentially smiling or looking down. This is often one of the earliest signals of attraction. It is a test, a small deniable declaration that says, I see you as more than background, but I am not ready to be caught looking. If this glance is reciprocated, if you look back and find them already looking, you are in the beginning of a non-verbal conversation, the held gaze. This is sustained eye contact that neither person breaks. Both people are aware of it. The air becomes different. This is the eye contact that demands acknowledgement. It cannot be passed off as accidental. When two people hold each other's gaze in a room full of people, they are, without words, marking each other as significant. This kind of eye contact in the early stages of knowing someone is one of the most powerful signals of mutual interest that exists in human social behavior. The soft look. This is eye contact characterized not by intensity, but by warmth. A gentle, unhurried gaze that communicates safety rather than desire specifically. Partners who have been together for years often exchange this kind of look. It is the gaze that says, I am comfortable with you. I am glad you are here. You are home to me. Research on long-term attachment has found that the frequency of this kind of eye contact between partners is one of the strongest predictors of relationship satisfaction. The avoidant non-look. This is the absence of eye contact and its own form of communication. When someone consistently avoids your gaze, it can mean many different things depending on context. It can signal discomfort, disinterest, anxiety, or, interestingly, intense attraction that someone does not know how to handle. Some people avoid eye contact specifically with those they are most drawn to because the vulnerability of that direct gaze with someone they care about feels overwhelming. Understanding the difference between avoidance as disinterest and avoidance as overwhelm requires reading the rest of the person's behavior, their body language, their nervous energy, the way they orient toward you even when they are not looking at you directly. The look across a room. This is perhaps the most cinematic of gaze types, the moment when you find someone's eyes from across a crowded space. This kind of eye contact carries particular psychological weight because of the effort implied by it. In a room full of other people and other things to look at, two gazes have found each other specifically. When this happens and holds for more than a moment, it initiates a connection that both people are aware of, a kind of invisible thread stretched across the space between them. The look that asks a question. This is the kind of eye contact that occurs at pivotal moments, before a potential first kiss, in the aftermath of a fight, at a crossroads in a relationship. It is eye contact that is openly searching. One person looking into another's eyes and genuinely asking without words, "Where are we? What are you feeling? What happens next?" This kind of gaze requires both people to be present and honest, and it is among the most emotionally intimate forms of non-verbal communication that humans engage in. Learning to read these different gazes and to understand what your own eyes are communicating is not about becoming manipulative. It is about becoming more conscious of a conversation that is already happening, whether you are aware of it or not. Eye contact across cultures, when the universal gets complicated. Before we go further into the psychology of eye contact in romantic attraction, it is important to acknowledge something. While the neurological foundation of eye contact as connection is universal, the social rules around eye contact vary significantly across cultures, contexts, and power dynamics, and misunderstanding those rules can produce genuine harm. In many Western cultures, sustained eye contact is generally interpreted as confidence, engagement, and trustworthiness. Job interview coaches advise candidates to maintain strong eye contact. Presentation trainers emphasize connecting with an audience through gaze. In romantic contexts, holding eye contact is widely read as a signal of interest and confidence, but this is not universal. In many East Asian cultures, prolonged direct eye contact, particularly with elders or authority figures, can be read not as respect, but as challenge or rudeness. In some indigenous cultures, sustained eye contact with elders is considered presumptuous. In many Middle Eastern contexts, there are complex gendered rules around eye contact between people of different genders in public spaces. In some parts of sub-Saharan Africa, avoiding direct eye contact with authority figures is a mark of respect. These differences are not trivial. They mean that the signals that communicate attraction, respect, and connection in one cultural context can communicate aggression, disrespect, or inappropriate familiarity in another. And this matters especially in diverse, multicultural environments where people from different backgrounds interact. Beyond culture, there are also individual differences to consider. For people with certain neurological profiles, particularly those on the autism spectrum, sustained eye contact can feel intensely uncomfortable, even physically painful, regardless of the emotional content of the interaction. Assuming that someone who avoids eye contact is being evasive, uninterested, or dishonest is both inaccurate and unkind. The meaning of a gaze is never entirely separable from the person doing the gazing. There is also the critical issue of power. Eye contact between equals operates differently than eye contact across a power differential. Sustained eye contact from someone in a position of authority can feel very different from the same gaze between peers. It can feel less like connection and more like scrutiny or dominance. And in the context of unwanted attention, eye contact can feel threatening rather than flattering, regardless of the sender's intention. Understanding eye contact in attraction means understanding all of this complexity. It means being attuned not just to your own desire to connect, but to the other person's comfort, their context, their culture, and the messages they are sending about whether this gaze is welcome. Connection through eye contact is real, but it is never a license to ignore consent. What happens to eye contact in long-term relationships? The gaze that sustains and the gaze that fades. Something happens to eye contact as relationships age, and it is worth examining carefully because it reveals a lot about the psychology of intimacy over time. In the early stages of romantic attraction and new love, eye contact is frequent, sustained, and charged. People in the early throes of attraction look at each other constantly. They study each other's faces with the attention of someone memorizing something they are afraid of losing. The gaze is hungry, exploratory, full of the electricity of novelty and desire. Psychologists studying new romantic pairs have documented this extensively. People who have recently fallen in love maintain eye contact for significantly longer durations than established couples or friends. They gaze at each other during conversations, between sentences, in quiet moments. The eyes in new love are in constant dialogue. But as relationships mature, something changes. The frequency and duration of intentional eye contact tends to decrease. Couples who have been together for years may spend entire meals together without sustained mutual gaze. They may talk comfortably and warmly without the constant visual attention of new love. And this shift is not necessarily a sign that something has been lost. In fact, researchers have found that long-term couples who are deeply satisfied and securely attached often shift from the intense, exploratory gaze of new love to something quieter and more profound, what might be called familiar gaze. This is the eye contact that happens not out of urgency or novelty, but out of simple pleasure in each other's presence. It is shorter in duration, but no less meaningful. It is the glance that says, "I see you. I still choose you. We are okay." But here is where it gets concerning. For relationships in distress, even this occasional familiar gaze often disappears entirely. Research by Dr. John Gottman, one of the foremost researchers in relationship science, has documented that couples who are in serious relational difficulty frequently show dramatically reduced eye contact, not just during arguments, but during ordinary interaction. When people feel disconnected, contemptuous, or emotionally unsafe with a partner, they literally stop looking at each other. The eyes, which were so eager to connect at the beginning, now find reasons to look elsewhere. And one of the most powerful interventions that couples therapists have documented is simply restoring intentional eye contact between partners. Not grand romantic gestures, not hours of processing difficult feelings, but the simple, deliberate act of looking at each other again. Couples who practice sustained mutual gaze, even briefly, even awkwardly at first, often report feeling more connected, more empathetic toward each other, more willing to be vulnerable about the things that have been difficult. The eyes that fell in love with each other still know how to find each other. Sometimes they just need to be reminded to look. The dark side of gaze. When eye contact is not intimacy but control, we have been talking largely about eye contact in the context of mutual attraction and willing connection. But we cannot have an honest conversation about the psychology of gaze without acknowledging its darker dimension. Eye contact can be used as a tool of dominance, intimidation, and control. In the animal kingdom, sustained direct staring is a challenge, a dominance display that communicates, "I am not afraid of you. I am asserting my position over you." Humans retain this wiring. Sustained eye contact that is not accompanied by warmth, reciprocity, or social permission can feel threatening, invasive, and controlling. It can be used, consciously or unconsciously, to assert power over another person. This is particularly relevant in discussions of predatory behavior and harassment. Research on social aggression has found that stalkers, abusers, and social predators frequently use sustained gaze as a form of intimidation, a way of signaling, "I am watching you. You cannot escape my attention." The gaze in these cases does not feel like connection. It feels like being hunted. Understanding the difference between the gaze that invites and the gaze that traps is crucial. And the key variable, more than any specific behavior, is the other person's response. In genuine mutual attraction, eye contact is a dialogue. Both people are active participants, both people have the power to redirect or end the visual exchange, and both people feel the contact as something that is happening with them rather than to them. When eye contact is used as a form of control or intimidation, the person on the receiving end does not feel drawn in. They feel cornered. They feel the need to escape rather than the desire to stay. They feel watched rather than seen. The distinction is not subtle when you are experiencing it. Being seen by someone who is genuinely interested in you feels like being offered a gift. Being watched by someone who intends to possess you feels like being assessed by a predator. Attraction psychology that ignores this distinction is incomplete. The same biological mechanism, the deep wiring that makes eye contact feel significant, can be deployed with care and mutuality or with possessiveness and violation. The difference lies not in the eyes themselves, but in the intention, the context, and above all, whether the other person is freely choosing to meet the gaze or being held in it against their will. Developing genuine eye contact. The practice of being truly present. Let us talk about something practical now, because if everything we have discussed is true, if eye contact genuinely creates connection, triggers bonding chemistry, communicates attraction, and creates the conditions for real intimacy, then the ability to make genuine eye contact with another person is one of the most powerful social and emotional skills a human being can develop. And I want to be very clear about something. The operative word is genuine. There is a significant difference between genuine eye contact and performed eye contact. You can teach someone to hold a gaze for exactly the right number of seconds to create the appearance of direct attention without any actual presence behind it. Charisma coaches and pickup artists sometimes teach these kinds of techniques, specific gaze patterns designed to manufacture the feeling of connection. And they do not work. Not really. Not in any way that leads to genuine intimacy or real attraction between real people. Because the other person can always feel the difference, not necessarily consciously, not always in a way they could articulate, but the brain is extraordinarily sensitive to authenticity in gaze. When someone is genuinely present with you, when their eyes are actually focused on you rather than performing focus, your nervous system registers it differently than when someone is going through the motions. The neurochemical response is different. The felt sense of connection is different. The reciprocal opening is different. So what does genuine eye contact require? First, presence. You cannot be genuinely present with another person through their eyes if your mind is somewhere else. If you are planning what you're going to say next, or worrying about how you look, or rehearsing a strategy, your eyes may be pointing in the right direction, but nothing real is traveling through them. Genuine eye contact requires that you actually arrive in the moment, that you bring your full attention to the person in front of you rather than to the performance of connection. This is harder than it sounds. Our minds are trained to be elsewhere. We are habituated to distraction, to planning, to self-monitoring. Genuine presence is a practice, not a default state. But the practice is simple if not easy. When you are with someone, consciously let go of everything except what is happening right now. Look at them because you are actually interested in seeing them, not because you are trying to seem interested, but because you have made the choice to genuinely be there. Second, Comfort with your own vulnerability. We talked earlier about the vulnerability loop, the discomfort that arises when you allow yourself to be truly seen. Developing genuine eye contact means developing a tolerance for that discomfort. It means not running from the moment when the gaze goes a beat too long and you feel exposed. It means staying in the discomfort long enough to discover that what is on the other side of it is connection. This often requires internal work that goes beyond any specific social technique. People who are deeply uncomfortable with eye contact are usually, at the root of it, uncomfortable with being seen. They have learned through experience that being visible is dangerous. Working through that is not a matter of practicing gaze techniques. It is a matter of developing the internal safety to be present with another person without armor. Third, genuine curiosity. The most magnetic people in terms of eye contact are almost always people who are genuinely curious about other people. They look at you because they actually want to know what is happening behind your eyes. They are not performing interest. They feel it. And this genuine curiosity creates a quality of attention that is palpable to the person being looked at. If you want to improve your eye contact in a way that genuinely creates connection, the most effective practice is not gaze duration exercises. It is cultivating real curiosity about the human beings you interact with. What is their internal life like? What are they afraid of? What makes them come alive? If you actually want to know those things, your eyes will communicate it. Fourth, reciprocal attention. Genuine eye contact is not one person performing while the other watches. It is a mutual creation. It requires both people to be participating. Part of making genuine eye contact is reading whether your gaze is welcome, whether the other person is leaning in or pulling back. Forcing or sustaining eye contact past the point where someone is comfortable is not intimacy. It is invasion. Real connection through gaze is always a co-creation. Both people are showing up. Both people are choosing to be present. And when it works, when two people simultaneously choose the vulnerability of genuine mutual gaze, it produces something that is genuinely extraordinary. The gaze that changes everything. Those moments you never forget. Most eye contact is ordinary, functional. The eye contact you make with the cashier, with a colleague in a meeting, with a friend across the table over coffee. This is not the eye contact we are going to remember in 20 years. But some eye contact is different. Some eye contact becomes a moment that you carry with you, that lodges itself in your memory with a clarity that outstrips far more dramatic events. A look across a room at a party. The eyes of someone you loved watching you when they thought you were not paying attention. The last time you looked into the eyes of someone you were about to lose. These moments are extraordinary not because the biology is different, the same neurons are firing, the same chemicals are moving, but because the conditions were such that everything lined up. The people involved were both genuinely present. The context was loaded with meaning, the vulnerability was real, and the gaze became a container for everything that was happening between two people that could not be said. There is a reason that the moments in our lives we most associate with love and connection so often crystallize around eye contact. Not around the words that were said, not around the specific things that were done, but around a look, around the memory of being truly seen by someone who mattered. This is what the eye contact between people is, at its best. A moment in which two human beings, separated by skin and bone, and the fundamental aloneness of individual consciousness, find a way across that separation. Not through language, which can always be questioned and reinterpreted, not through touch, which requires physical proximity, but through the most fundamental act of attention, through the willingness to look and be looked at, to see and be seen, with no pretense and no distance and nothing held back. In those moments, the silence between two people is not empty, it is full, it is carrying everything. What you can do with all of this? Applying attraction psychology to your real life. We have covered an enormous amount of ground. We have moved from evolutionary biology through neuroscience, through the specific psychology of attraction, and into the lived experience of connection through gaze. So let us bring all of this home into something actionable and real. Here is what understanding the psychology of eye contact and attraction can actually change for you. In dating and romantic connection, pay attention to eye contact as a signal, not just a symbol. If you are on a date and you find that you keep catching someone's eyes, that they are looking at you when they do not need to, that they hold your gaze a beat longer than ordinary social convention demands, that is real information. Your nervous system already knows it. Your task is simply to trust it. And conversely, practice being present enough to offer the same signal genuinely. Put your phone away. Look at the person. Not strategically, not as a technique, but as a genuine act of choosing to be with them. Let yourself be curious about who they are. Let that curiosity live in your eyes. Notice the moments when eye contact increases the tension between you and someone you are interested in. Instead of immediately looking away out of reflex or self-protection, experiment with staying a half second longer. See what happens on the other side of that discomfort. More often than you expect, what happens is that the other person stays too, and something between you opens. In established relationships, make time for what some relationship researchers call gazing practice, not as a formal exercise, but as an intentional part of your daily life together. Look at your partner when they talk, not at your phone, not at the room, not at the problem you are both discussing, at them, at their face, at their eyes. Let them see that they have your attention. After difficult periods, after arguments, after distance, after the kind of disconnection that creeps into long relationships like a slow tide, consider the power of simply looking at each other again. Sitting across from someone you love and looking at them, really looking, can move something that has been stuck. It can remind both of you of what is actually between you, beneath the logistics and the conflict and the fatigue. In your relationship with yourself, understanding that your discomfort with eye contact, if you feel it, is usually about vulnerability, can shift how you relate to it. Instead of criticizing yourself for looking away or pushing yourself through anxiety with brute force, try getting curious about what you are afraid of. What is it about being seen that feels dangerous? What would someone see if they really looked that you are not sure is acceptable? Because here is the truth that the psychology of eye contact ultimately points toward. The connection you are longing for, the kind of bond where you feel genuinely seen and genuinely loved, cannot happen while you are hiding. It can only happen in the open. It can only happen when you allow yourself to be looked at by someone and look back. And that begins with two human beings willing to stop looking away. The silent language we are all speaking. We started this conversation with a question about why eye contact feels like a silent bond. And I hope by now you can feel the weight and texture of the answer, that it is not a simple answer and that it was never going to be. Eye contact feels like a bond because in every meaningful sense it is one. It is a bond forged over millions of years of evolutionary pressure toward connection. It is a bond sealed by neurochemicals, by the oxytocin that flows between two people who choose to look at each other, by the dopamine that rewards the brain for making contact, by the mirror neurons that make your nervous system resonate with the person you're looking at until their reality and yours begin to blur at the edges. It is a bond written in the language that existed before language, in the ancient grammar of gaze that our ancestors used to navigate trust and threat and desire before they had words for any of it. And it is a bond that we are all constantly speaking and receiving in our interactions, mostly below the level of conscious awareness, mostly without ever stopping to notice what an extraordinary thing it is. The eyes are not just sensory organs. They are the most sophisticated communication technology the human body has ever produced. And the act of genuinely looking at another person, of choosing presence over protection, of holding the gaze past the edge of comfort, is one of the most profound things one human being can offer another. You can give someone your time and they may forget it. You can give someone beautiful words and they may misremember them. But look at someone, really look at them, with all of your attention and all of your genuine curiosity and all of your willingness to be seen in return, and they will carry that with them. Because being truly seen, in the silence of a held gaze, is one of the things we are most deeply designed to need. And the most beautiful thing about all of this, you have been practicing the language your whole life. You just might not have known it. Thank you for spending this time exploring the psychology of attraction and eye contact. If something in this conversation resonated with something in your own life, a look you remember, a moment of connection, a gaze you wish you had held or been offered, take that seriously. Those moments are not small. They are the architecture of what it means to be human with other humans. The next time someone looks at you and holds your gaze just a beat too long, stay, see what is there.